The dream may be over. This might be the most important sailing video you ever watch. Things are changing in Florida, and your ability to anchor wherever you want and sail wherever you want might be at an end. America is the land of the free, but in 2025, that freedom is being challenged. If you're into boating and cruising, your ability to sail around Florida may turn into a bureaucratic nightmare of permits, laws, regulations that change county to county. You could be doing something illegal and you don't even know it. What is going on here? In this video, we're going to find out the answer to that question and what you can do about it. Nobody wants derelict boats on Florida's waterways, but the Florida legislature's current bills dealing with anchoring issues could eliminate overnight anchoring in large parts of the state. If passed, these laws would dramatically change where and how boaters can anchor, disrupting cruising traditions and negatively impacting Florida's marine economy. These bills just don't target derelict boats. They threaten the rights of responsible, law-abiding boaters. And by restricting anchoring and returning rulemaking authority to local governments, the state would create a chaotic patchwork of inconsistent laws that will make navigating Florida's waters increasingly difficult. If you boat, sail, or cruise Florida, whether seasonally or year-round, these bills deserve your immediate attention. Stick around, guys. We are going to get into this subject and talk about what's really going on here from the perspective of someone who's been there, someone who anchored there for 6 months. Let's take a deep dive into what's going on in Florida with boating laws and how things are about to change. House Bill 481 would limit anchoring to just 30 days in any 6-month period in counties with a population over 1.5 million or areas designated as a critical state concern. The problem? These terms are vague and overly broad, potentially applying to most of Florida's most popular anchorages. Consider this. If you're waiting for a weather window, or you need to make repairs, or simply just enjoying Florida's waters, you may inadvertently violate these laws just by staying in one place too long. With Florida's ongoing shortage of marinas, slips, and mooring fields, many boaters have no choice but to remain at anchor longer than 30 days. For example, there are over 500 boats at anchor in Biscayne Bay, some over 100 feet length overall. Why? Because even short-term slips just aren't available. This bill doesn't address the root cause of abandoned boats. It only punishes responsible boaters who are following the law. But that's not all. There's worse. Perhaps the most alarming aspect of this bill is that it seeks to return anchor rulemaking authority to local governments, an authority that was removed in 2006 for good reason. In the past, local governments across Florida enacted wildly inconsistent and often extreme anchoring restrictions. Some cities banned anchoring outright, while others imposed arbitrary time limits, requiring boaters to move every 24 to 48 hours. The result? A legal and navigational nightmare for boaters trying to navigate from one stop to the next. If you overstay under these proposals, you become subject to local rules. If that rule is that you must leave the municipality or county, you have no options other than to move to a marina or an ALA, which in many crowded areas won't be possible. By reinstating local rulemaking authority, HB 481 will again create a confusing patchwork of rules where what's legal in one city could be illegal in the next. This challenge for boaters will be immense. How will boaters keep track of different anchoring limits in every city? Will local police have the resources or expertise to enforce maritime law correctly? What happens when transient boaters unintentionally violate rules they didn't even know existed? There are cities such as Miami Beach that will completely outlaw anchoring after 30 days, forcing hundreds of boats to move. But where are they going to go? Musical chairs is a child's game, not a process that creates a good outcome. Returning anchoring decisions to local governments is a step backwards, undoing nearly 2 decades of progress in fair and consistent maritime regulation. My name is Michael Potts, and I live on this Scepter 36-foot sailboat. This is where I am today. We're in Miami, Anyone from this area knows about Flagler Memorial Island. This destination is known worldwide. It's a great spot to anchor your boat. Now, right across from the island here, you'll see hundreds of boats. Some of them nice, some of them derelict. Just like anywhere else in the world, that's what it's going to be like. You're going to have boats that aren't that great, boats that are brand new, boats that have been there for a while. Now, you're probably asking, what's the big deal? Let me give you an example. My first month in Miami, I decided to anchor near Flagler Memorial Island. A bit of wind picked up. There was a cold front coming through, so I decided to go into one of these finger bays, and I dropped my hook in front of a really nice mansion. Within half an hour, the cops were on me, asking me to move. Being a Canadian, I brought up my hook and went somewhere else. But the truth is they had no right to ask me to move. According to the current legislation in Florida, I can anchor wherever I want, as long as I'm not in the navigational channel. And I ask myself, what do these people have to hide? If I'm anchored there looking at their property, what are they concerned about? I get it. The residents of Miami don't want people looking into their property. But at the same time, this is an important issue that needs to be dealt with. We're going to dive into it in this video, so stick around, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's take another look of what's going on in Florida and in Miami in 2025. I'm going to show you some videos of the court cases, and we're going to look into this issue a little further. Stick around. Let's get into the video. Wally Moran, along with other boating association representatives, is fighting this battle in front of the legislature, where Senate Bill 481 will be decided.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Wally Moran. I represent the Cruisers' Rights Network of North America. I am against HB 164 as it unfairly restricts anchoring and it harms responsible boaters, both local and transient, and in the process it also harms Florida's marine economy. I'd like to be clear about one thing. Boaters strongly support removing derelict vessels and protecting waterways, but the HB 164 doesn't do that. It punishes responsible boaters while failing to address the actual problem. Although I am addressing HB 164 today, much of what I'm going to say is applicable to the other anti-anchoring bills which are in front of the legislature this session. For example, it's quite clear that these bills were not written with any input from boaters, and by that I mean people who spend days and weeks on the water, charter boat and delivery captains, cruising boaters, out-of-state boaters, and not people in suits who might go out on a Sunday 3-hour tour in a 26-foot center console. These bills propose so-called solutions that will put boaters into dangerous circumstances. They do not address effectively the problems that they are supposed to be solving, and let's be upfront about this. They're being proposed because certain communities in Florida are attempting to ban anchoring altogether. My question for all of you is this one. Why is this legislature even considering proposals that are clearly parochial, that benefit one community at the expense of boaters and communities statewide? Now, the problems with HB 164 include harsh anchoring time limits that will put boaters at risk. The bill forces boaters to move even when it is unsafe to do so, disregarding weather, emergency repairs, or marina availability. Marinas and mooring fields currently are full. From December until April or May, wait lists exceed a month in places like Boot Key Harbor and St. Augustine. Biscayne Bay right now has over 500 boats at anchor, some over 100 feet in length, for extended periods, and there are no slips available for those boats in Florida. There are simply not enough slips available to put these boats anywhere but at anchor. Now, from Palm Beach to Miami, hundreds of boats anchor every season while waiting for a safe weather window to cross to the Bahamas. If boats are forced to move before conditions allow, they'll be trapped with no safe options, putting both vessels and lives of the people aboard in danger. Boating brings in $23 billion annually to Florida, and it supports thousands of jobs in marinas, boatyards, and waterfront businesses. On top of all of this, law enforcement is going to be obligated to checking a boat's permit. This diverts law enforcement resources and funds from more important police action. Now, instead of broad restrictions, I suggest that Florida should adopt a zoned management approach, and I write about this in my white paper, Anchoring a Solution. Some of you have already received a copy, and all of you will receive a copy of it in the next day or so. Anchoring a Solution provides a balanced, effective alternative to banning anchoring. Florida needs to establish managed anchorages as proposed in my white paper by creating designated anchoring zones with clear, enforceable guidelines instead of blanket bans on anchoring. Now, the reason I wrote this white paper is because nobody's taken an overview of the entire situation in years, and it needed to be done. Florida already has tools like the propulsion test and vessel turn-in program to deal with derelict boats. Why are communities such as Miami Beach not using those tools to solve derelict boat issues rather than creating yet another unworkable law? Boaters, responsible boaters, want to help maintain Florida's waterways. Yet in all the time I've been involved in this issue, which is a couple of decades now, I see very little consultation with actual boaters. The result is that we get legislation that does not work, that creates more problems, not fewer, and every year you people spend hours and hours of your time dealing with boating issues when you shouldn't have to be doing this.
So what's really going on here? On the one hand, we have residents who own properties that are on the water, and they're sick of seeing derelict sailboats. While anchored in Miami Beach, I spoke with a gentleman, and he said that he was living in the surrounding towers. He told me that when COVID hit, the rents went through the roof. What was $2,500 a month turned into $5,000 a month. And he told me he bought a boat and he anchored it right there in the bay. Him and his wife lived on it. So is this an attempt for people to save money? The more people you have doing this, the worse the problem becomes. Not everyone is an astute seaman and mariner or cruiser. There's a lot involved with living on a sailboat. They realize it's not for them, and they abandon their boat right there in the bay. And now it's everyone else's problem, the city's problem, and it just looks horrible. Now, if you go to Miami and you anchor there, it's really hard to go ashore. The city of Miami Beach has made it almost impossible for you to dock your dinghy. When you live on a sailboat, you need to re-provision. You need food, you need water, you need fuel, and of course, boat parts. When you hop in your dinghy, there's a number of places you can go to. A few years ago, you were able to go up one of the canals here and go right to a grocery store. They even had a dock. You could walk over, get your food, come back, and put your food in your dinghy and take it back to your boat. Now, if you stick around to the end of this video, I know a spot where you can get fuel, where it's private property, and Miami Beach can't say anything. You can tie up your dinghy there and actually go ashore and get fuel. So there's a number of factors here that affect people that wish to anchor in Biscayne Bay or in Miami Beach. Make a comment down below what you think's going on here. Why is the government really trying to implement these new laws? Miami has a rich history, a maritime history. Boats from all around the US end up here as a staging point to get into the Bahamas. Why would the city not want these people here? It brings in money, brings in tourists. As with any population, there's always going to be some bad apples. To me, this seems un-American. Why would the government want to limit your right to freedom, to anchor where you want? Tell me in the comments what you think down below. Now, there are some environmental concerns here. Most ocean-going vessels have the ability to pump their holding tank overboard. What the city did is they brought in the marine unit and they started putting dye in people's holding tanks to see if they were polluting the harbor. Now I've seen this firsthand. There are a lot of canals in and around Miami Beach. All the rainwater drains into the canal and the tide takes it out to sea. I highly doubt that any boats in the harbor are creating more pollution than what's coming off the streets and into the canals. Obviously, this is a very complex subject. There are many factors influencing what's really going on here. So you tell me what you think in the comments down below.
The morning light is wandering on my face. I can't believe I don't know the day, the time, the place.
I'm not sure if Miami Beach has gotten smart to this, but there is a spot you can go ashore. The last time I was there were boats tied up there and no one gave me a ticket. These ticket officers will wait for you to come ashore, and the moment you leave your dinghy, they tow it away. Obviously, this is a very critical issue, but what can we do about it? Wally Moran has taken the lead in this fight, and let's support him. Listed in the description down below is a number of links where you can donate to Wally's PayPal. Help him with the costs associated with fighting this battle. Our freedom as boaters and cruisers in Florida is on the line. We need to band together and let our voices be heard. That's it for this video. I hope everyone learned something here. And again, I ask you, please click the links in the description down below and let's support Wally. Captain Michael, signing out.